That statue we saw at the zoo is the reason my friends are gone. I can still hear the sound it made when it tore through the trees. Not a roar, not like in the movies. It was a sharp, splitting crack, like a 1,000-year-old oak being ripped in half from the inside out. My friends are gone, and it's all because we stopped to look at some shitty roadside attraction. It was supposed to be our getaway. 4 of us, crammed into my sputtering old Civic, escaping the city after finals. Me, my girlfriend Alara, and our 2 best friends, Kian and Maeva. Kian saw the sign first, a peeling billboard with a cartoon T-Rex. Prehistoric paradise, it read in faded, sun-bleached letters. You gotta be kidding me, I said. Come on, it'll be a laugh, Kian insisted, already picturing the stupid photos we'd take. Maeva, always game, was on his side. Alara just gave me that look, the one that said humor him. So I pulled over. The place was a graveyard for sad animals. A single mangy lion stared at the concrete wall of its enclosure. A bear paced a figure-8 pattern into the mud, its path worn so deep it looked like a trench. The air was thick with the smell of wet hay and despair. This is depressing, Alara whispered, tucking her arm into mine. The grand finale awaits, Keen announced, pointing to a rickety wooden archway that read, Dinosaur Kingdom. We walked through. The place was a joke. A triceratops with a snapped-off horn, a stegosaurus whose plates were flaking off like bad sunburn. Then we saw it. Standing in a small grove of pines, set back from the path, was an Allosaurus. And it was perfect. Too perfect. The paint wasn't paint. It looked like skin, a deep forest green mottled with dark spots, stretched tight over muscle. Its teeth had the translucent ivory quality of real bone, but the eyes, they were yellow, glossy, and seemed to follow you. While the other statues were cheap plastic, this thing felt like taxidermy. Whoa, Maeva said, taking a step back. They must have blown their whole budget on this guy. Allosaurus, a predator known for its aggressive pack-hunting tactics and unusually high intelligence. Keon read from a small metal plaque nearly swallowed by weeds. I couldn't look away from its eyes. There was no plaque, no artist's signature, nothing. It just stood there, poised to lunge, a predator frozen mid-stride. Alara tugged on my sleeve. Can we go now? It's giving me the creeps. As we walked away, I glanced back. I swear to God, I thought I saw its head turn, just a fraction of an inch. I blinked, and it was still again. A trick of the light. It had to be. We drove for another 2 hours, deep into state forest land, the paved roads giving way to dirt tracks that rattled the car's frame. Kian directed me to a spot he knew, a small clearing miles from anywhere. My uncle showed me this place, he said. Swears he saw Bigfoot out here as a kid. Your uncle also thinks the government is run by lizard people, Maeva reminded him, grinning. Hey, the man has his theories, Kian laughed. We set up the tents as the sun bled out behind the mountains, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. The air grew cold fast. Exhausted from the drive, we all turned in early. Just as I was drifting off, a sound echoed from deep in the woods. It was a low, guttural thrumming, so deep I felt it in my teeth. It wasn't an animal. It was too rhythmic, too mechanical. I sat bolt upright. Ilara was awake too, her eyes wide in the dark. Keon, you asshole, very funny, I yelled out. Silence. The thrumming sound was gone. The next morning, the forest was different. The birds were quiet. We started our hike, following Keon down a trail that was little more than a deer path. The woods were beautiful, ancient, and green, but there was a stillness that felt wrong. Heavy. Like the air before a lightning strike. An hour in, Maeva stopped. Does anyone else feel like we're being watched? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Kean scoffed. It's the woods, May. Of course we're being watched. By squirrels. But he didn't believe it. I could see the tension in his shoulders. Alara's hand found mine, her palm slick with sweat. I felt it too. A prickling on my neck, the kind of ancient animal instinct that tells you there's a predator nearby. Then came the new sound, a wet clicking, click-clack, click-clack. It came from all around us, echoing strangely through the dense trees. It sounded like someone tapping two smooth, wet stones together. "What is that?" Alara whispered. "Probably a woodpecker," Kian said, but his pace quickened. We walked for what felt like hours, the clicking following us, sometimes distant, sometimes seeming to be right behind the next tree. The forest began to feel alien. We passed the same gnarled, lightning-scarred oak tree 3 times. "Kian, are we lost?" I finally asked, the fear I'd been suppressing starting to bubble up in my throat. "No," he said, but he was looking at the compass on his watch, his brow furrowed. "The trail should be. It doesn't make sense." The clicking stopped. The silence that fell was worse. It was absolute. Then, from the dense undergrowth to our left, a branch snapped with the sound of a gunshot. Alara screamed, a raw, terrified sound. She was pointing. I followed her trembling finger, and my blood went ice cold. Partially hidden behind the trunk of a massive pine was a wall of green, mottled skin. A single, huge yellow eye blinked, slow and deliberate. It wasn't a statue. It couldn't be. But I knew the shape, the texture, the soulless, predatory intelligence in that eye. The Allosaurus from the zoo. It was here. It stepped out from behind the tree. It moved with a fluid grace that was utterly terrifying for a creature its size. It didn't make a sound. It just stood there, maybe 40 yards away, its head low, watching us. Its chest rose and fell with silent, steady breaths. "Nobody fucking move," I breathed. My voice sounded thin, pathetic. The creature's throat began to vibrate. That wet clicking sound started again, coming from deep within its chest. It was a vocalization, a sound of curiosity, or hunger. It took a step towards us. That broke the spell. Kian did something I'll never understand. Maybe it was bravery, maybe it was panic. He yelled, "Get the fuck away from us," he screamed, his voice cracking. The creature's head snapped towards him. The clicking stopped. A new sound rumbled from its chest, a low, guttural growl that vibrated through the soles of my shoes. It was the sound of a landslide starting. It bared its teeth. They were long, curved, and looked sharp enough to shear through steel. That was it. Primal fear took over. My brain just switched off. There was no thought, only a single screaming command: run. I grabbed Alara's hand and we bolted. We plunged into the trees, not caring about the path. Maeva and Kian were right with us. Behind us, the forest erupted. That splitting, cracking roar tore through the air as the beast gave chase. The ground shook with its footsteps. I don't know how long we ran. It was a blind, panicked flight through a green hell. Branches whipped my face, thorns tore at my clothes. All I knew was the sound of Alara's ragged breathing beside me and the thunder of the monster behind us. Then I saw it, through the trees. A break in the canopy. The clearing. My car. We burst out of the woods, stumbling into the open. I fumbled for my keys, my fingers feeling like useless sausages. I jammed the key in the lock, threw the door open, and shoved Alara inside, scrambling in after her. I slammed the door and locked it just as the Allosaurus crashed through the tree line. It stopped at the edge of the clearing, its massive head swiveling, its yellow eyes locking onto the car. It let out another roar, a sound of pure frustration and fury that made the windows vibrate. Then it started walking towards us. It didn't rush. It stalked. Each step was slow, deliberate. It was studying us. Alara was sobbing, huddled against the passenger door. I turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died. "No, no, no, no," I chanted, turning the key again. It caught. The engine roared to life. The creature was right next to the car now. It lowered its head, its massive eye filling my entire window. I could see the pupil, a vertical black slit, contracting as it focused on me. It was intelligent. It was curious. It opened its mouth, and a string of thick saliva dripped onto the windshield. Then, a scream. from the woods. Maeva. The Allosaurus's head snapped up. It turned away from the car, its attention completely diverted. It let out a series of low, excited clicks. It was the sound of a predator that has located its preferred prey. It moved with impossible speed, vanishing back into the trees in the direction of the scream. Another scream, this one from Kian, cut short by a wet, crunching sound that I will hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life. I didn't think. I stomped on the gas. The tires spun in the dirt, caught, and the car shot forward. I didn't look back. I drove like a madman, bouncing down the dirt track, not slowing until we hit the blessed, solid blacktop of the highway. I'm writing this from a cheap motel, 2 states away. Ilara is asleep, finally, after hours of shaking and crying. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see that yellow eye staring into mine. I hear that final, awful crunch. We left them. We just left them there. We drove away and we listened to them die. And I know, with a certainty that freezes my soul, that if we had been the ones screaming from the woods, it would have left the car for us too.